Hello and welcome to Marginal Support. I'm Andre Lindy, and at Marginal Support, support is anything but marginal. Today we have our guest Shmuel. Sorry if
Got
I
it.
said that wrong. But just great to have you on. Could you please just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. Really a pleasure. So currently, I'm the one of the senior managers in the enterprise accounts department at B&H Photo. So we're a inbound B2B contact center. So we're working with corporations, governments, schools, higher education, really helping them through their technology procurement. Starting really from quotes all the way through order and post order. And really a lot of support really goes along with that, right? So there is definitely a lot of electronic, transactions that are being done, but customers always need help, right? And then that's what they're relying on us for, and that's what we're here for. We're here to support them, give them a great experience along the way.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I've definitely heard of you guys. I've seen your website.
Yeah,
It's a very well-known brand. So before we started, and when we were kind of setting this whole thing up, I asked you, "Hey, what do you want to talk about?" And you told me that cause it is what empowerment and accountability for employees, but that's a
yeah,
very, very
broad.
broad idea.
Yeah,
Could you, kind of just break it down for me? Give me some examples.
yeah,
What does empowerment and accountability look like to you?
yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like you said, it is a pretty broad category, but I'll say they are really important and they really go hand in hand. So, when you are, as a leader, trying to build a high-performing organization, and you want your people to do well, and you want them to be, focused and engaged and productive and effective, and you really need to think about where that starts from. And you can't just tell someone, hey, do a great job, right? Like, I want you to do work and do great work, right? Like, you have to, there's so much foundational work that goes into that. And to me, it really all starts with trust, and what type of relationship have you built with these people. So that they know you're there to help them, you're there to support them, and you're there to help them along their journey, and be the best employees that they can. um, that starts with trust, and showing that you're there for their benefit, and empowering them to do their best work. So that's just on one side of it. And on the flip side is the accountability aspect of it, where yes, I'm here to support you and I'm here to help you grow and develop, but I'm also going to hold you accountable for that, right? So in general, people work really well with a deadline, or work really well with expectations. So once you've set those expectations, well, now I'm going to hold you accountable to make sure you get them done. So to me, they're really two parts of the same equation. um, and it's all the work that goes into it, building that foundation and building that trust, and those expectations of what you're expecting from your team, right? Like, so if I need you to do, X number of interactions, right? Like, looking at your handle time, I'm looking at your throughput and how much you're producing. Well, I'm going to let you know that. I'm going to tell you this is what I'm expecting of you. Um, and then again, holding you accountable for that, to make sure that you know what you're doing, you know how you're doing, and that you're being held accountable for your success, and really ultimately the customer's success.
It definitely sounds like the like you were saying, it's basically two sides of a coin, right? You can't
Yeah.
have empowerment without accountability. Um, I'm curious though, this is probably something that we've all encountered as leaders. What have been some of the more difficult times where you've tried to empower an employee, where they just don't want to either get over the hump, or you see them that they are just someone that just likes to coast, and you're trying to bump them up to the next level, but it seems like certain employees just they just want to kind of stay at that same level all the time. How do you handle employees that feel like they never want to kind of rise themselves up?
Yeah, no, it's really great question, and definitely something that you experience in this field and as a leader. So the first thing is, I would say, is you identifying what's going on, right? So first you need to have a conversation with the employee, and really just lay out the facts, right? And always start with data. So looking over your last, few weeks or last month, here's what I'm seeing, right? Here's where I see your QA scores. Here's where I'm seeing your general quality, your productivity. Um, and this is really not what we're looking for. This is really not meeting our expectations. And help me understand what's going on, right? Is there something else that's happening in the back end that I just don't know? Potentially there's a personal issue going on. Maybe there's a system issue that just wasn't, made it to anyone's attention. So really, the first thing is starting with that, coming from a curious, like the curiosity aspect of help. I don't want to just, come down and say what's going on and you're not doing this, right? I want to start first by help me understand your perspective. Like there are so many times where you're just missing a piece of information, and then once they say, oh, well, this is what's happening. Oh, okay, well, now I totally understand why this is what it is. So first, really coming from that curiosity perspective of help me really understand what's going on from your side, and let's work together to make sure we can move that along. So really, yeah, obviously depending on what their answer is, right, could just be, I'm trying. I thought I'm doing my best. Yeah, I'm just, really just trying to do my best. And it's like, okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. However, it's really not what we're looking for, right? These are not our expectations, and I'm making you aware that these are not our expectations. And how do we work together to move you, push that needle, right? And really push that up. And trying to, again, be clear with people, right? Lay out the data, lay out the facts, lay out, I'm here to help you, I'm here to support you, um, and we're going to work together as a team to really figure out how to do this. But on the other hand, also being clear that, look, this is a two-way street. I need your buy-in as well. I need you to join me, right? We're here to do this together. I can't force you. I can't force you to change. I can't force you to change what you're doing. Um, and the reality is that, look, if this continues, then this is going to be a problem, right? And we're going to have to start having different conversations of, just this might just not be the right role for you, and that's okay if you've, had your journey here and your time, you've decided that your time is up. That's okay. Let's just talk about that and be open and be clear about it. So, so trying to move through those steps of, right, starting with curiosity, laying out, here's what I'm seeing, how do we work together to really resolve it? And sometimes it's just people just need a reminder and just need a, lay it out for them and say, you're right, I really haven't been doing my best. I appreciate you giving me this feedback, and I'm gonna do better, right? And I'm gonna really pick it up and pick up my pace, pick up my quality, pick up my interactions, and that's it. But then it also sometimes can take some really just some working together of why are you really here, right? And asking them those questions of like, do you understand like why are you here? Are you here just for a paycheck? It's okay as long as you're meeting our expectations, right? But if you can really dig into someone's inner motivations and try to understand, and connect with them, maybe say, what do you, if you were a customer, how would you want to feel, when you go to a store or when you call a company, so and trying to really try to connect them to the work. And I like to try to always try to humanize it, right? So it's not just about, answering a phone. It's not just typing an email, putting in data in a system. It's you're helping a person. You're helping someone do something, right? There's a reason they're calling us. There's a reason they've reached out to us. It's not just because they want to just talk. They need help. So you get the opportunity to help a person, um, and that also sometimes helps. But sometimes but sometimes you do all of this work and you do everything you can, and in the end, it's just it's really a two-way street. It's really on the other person as well, and that's where the accountability piece comes in. Where, look, I've worked with you. You probably, let's say you meet with them a few times. You continue to have these types of conversations, right? Like we've talked about this, we've gone over this, we've been clear about our expectations. We're still not seeing the progress we need to see. It's time to talk, you know, an exit strategy. Like this isn't working, and you have to have that second component of the accountability, because otherwise, the really people aren't necessarily going to be incentivized to really get better if they're not a innate person of that they want to do good work. It just may not happen. And if you don't hold people accountable and show that you're serious about it, it just shows everyone else on the team that you're okay with poor work. And it just nothing to me erodes trust and employee and team morale more than putting up with poor performance, because it's just no reason for people to do it if you're just going to show that you can let people coast.
Yeah, I can agree more. I think mediocrity kind of breeds mediocrity. If you
Totally.
see, if your top performers see someone just coasting, not really doing the most, and they're getting treated the same way as them, the top performers, they're like, what am I putting all this effort in for,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so I definitely agree with that. Kind of the flip side of that. Well, first, I mean, yeah, as managers, we have to have those tough conversations. They're never fun, but they're needed,
Yeah.
absolutely needed. On the flip side, when we talk about how can we motivate people, I want to get your opinion on this. Where I've learned what motivates people a lot is in one-on-one sessions, and it's these little nuggets before you really get into like how's your numbers looking. It's the information they give you then. How have you taken the information you get in these sessions to find out what motivates someone, then to go out and find the next opportunity for them so they can continue to stay motivated?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I always like to just start with just asking people how they're doing. How's your day? How's your week? Did you do anything over the weekend, and or you have anything planned coming up? And sometimes it's hard because if somebody's being called into your office, they may not be the most open and willing to share. But it is about trying to find those ways of getting some of that, like you said, nuggets of details about them. So it's really about, I guess, not in those conversations, but maybe, just walking the floor. Maybe it's about just trying to send messages to people or just to try to connect. Um, but like, an example would be if somebody's really, really likes to do puzzles, right? And they really like that's just something that's like really cool to them. They love solving a problem. Okay, great. We have problems all day. That's what we do. Right? And so you can give them hey, take this report. I need your help to work on these issues, right? And these orders, this report. And it's an opportunity to take a break from, the regular work that people can kind of, get accustomed to, and a chance to flex some different skills and different muscles and really use that part of their brain that loves solving a problem and can like think it over and analyze it, and it obviously also helps you because it's helping with the work and it helps them keep motivated and engaged. And so trying to find opportunities like that where, okay, this person likes doing puzzles, amazing. I have endless amounts of puzzles that need work and issues that need solving. This person really likes speaking to people and loves connecting with customers. Maybe give them an escalated issue. A customer wants to speak to a manager. They're really great at de-escalating, right? And talking customers, and helping come up to working solutions, right? So just these are a couple just ideas of ways of using some information from people, to really help keep them engaged, but obviously also to help you as well. If you have somebody who's really great at building team morale, okay, have them, hey, I want to work on this initiative of trying to boost engagement across the whole team. What are some ideas do you think that could really bring the team together? Right? So tapping into that skill and making people feel like they're, a part of something bigger than just their regular work. It's a great way to get somebody involved. Um, yeah, that's just a couple quick ideas on that.
I mean, yeah, delegation is definitely when delegation is done right, it can really spark someone's creativity. But I think for me, kind of like you're saying, you have to find something that really interests someone. Because if you delegate a task to someone and they don't care, they're not going
Yeah.
to be bought in. Once you
Yeah.
get that buy-in, and once you show someone how what you're doing here not only is affecting not only the team, but the department, but the company, and then they feel that they have a stake in something, I think is really when you get a lot of that buy-in. So I couldn't agree more. For you, as you have gone up the ladder, you're a senior manager right now. What do you think has been some of the challenges for you in terms of finding your next challenge or finding the next thing that motivates you? Because
Mm.
things are always changing when you're going up to the next level, right?
Yeah. 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 I actually started as an agent on the phone, so I know what that's like. I know what it is to take the calls and work the emails and helping customers. So for me, it's really been always about um, I've had really great peers. I've had really great leaders and managers that were really helpful in helping me grow and understanding what I wanted to do. Um, and for me, it was about making a decision that I wanted to help others grow, right? I wanted to help others, you know, learn. I wanted to help others develop their own skills. So that was something that for me has always been a push and a motivating factor for me. Of well, now in my this role, I get to help other people, and I get to help them learn and help and expose them to these ideas and expose them to different, you know, ways of operating. And that keeps me motivated because I'm always trying to figure out the next person, and I'm always trying to, understand what makes this person tick, and how can I push them, push that person to really do what I know that they're capable of doing. And it keeps me learning. It keeps me learning about different, just ideas about people, different ways of motivation, trying new things, and and connecting with others. That's something for me that's always kept me motivated. Also being able to step in and take on larger responsibilities and, helping set the direction for our department. So those are some obviously also benefits, but for me, it really always comes back to how am I helping someone get better, and how am I helping my team connect with our customers and to give them a great experience.
Yeah, I think for most of us, just helping others is kind of ingrained into us.
Yeah.
I mean, the 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 way I always looked at it is that you never stop supporting people. It's
Yeah.
just the people you support changes. When you're on front lines, you're supporting customers. When you become a frontline manager, then you're supporting your team. When you become a
Totally.
senior manager, then you're supporting your manager. So there's
Yeah.
always an element of support there, and I don't think people clearly ever see that distinction. And so I think that also is a reason why some people kind of just get stuck at one level of management because they don't really can see the big picture. Um, for you, what was a leader that gave you one of these aha moments, one of these like moments where it made you realize what your potential was?
Yeah, for me, a pretty pivotal moment for me was when I was a team leader at the time, and I really needed to make a decision and decide what I wanted to do, right? Did I want to continue this journey, continue exploring in this path of, you know, going up to supervisor or manager, or do I really just want to, maybe do something else, maybe a different department, maybe a different job? And my supervisor at the time really sat me down and talked through what these different ideas and the different opportunities, and there was a supervisor position open at the time, and I shared my concerns about. At the time, I looked at it as, well, I already deal with problems. Do I want to deal with bigger problems? And the answer was no, I don't. I don't want to deal with angrier customers. I don't want to deal with larger dollar problems. I just I just want to do my thing. Um, and she said something to me that, was pretty simple but profound at the same time, where it was the first person to really help shape this mindset of, well, I'm not dealing with problems, I'm helping people, right? I'm helping people solve problems. Um, And it, again, yeah, simple, right? But profound at the same time. And it was pretty life changing and career changing for me, and helped frame it in the right way of, yeah, okay, yes, I deal with problems, but it's really about helping my employees, helping my managers know how to solve this problem. You come to me with, hey, what do we do? Do we issue this refund to the customer? I don't know. They really came to us after the return policy, and I'm not sure. They don't really have the packaging, and they need to make a decision, right? So for me, it's about, okay, let's talk it through. Let's explore it. Let's think through the different options and the different ways we can go about it, and help them come to that decision of, oh yeah, you know what, I think this is what we should do. And I'm like, great, your choice, your decision, go for it, right? And so yes, I'm working with problems and sometimes complicated and difficult issues, but it's always back to a person, right? It's always back to helping one of my employees, helping one of my frontline employees, or generally managers, and that's just the way I see it.
I mean, it almost sounds like you're talking about empowerment there. You know, I
Yes,
mean,
exactly. But that's really what it is, right? Like empowering them to take on the problems, and I also tell them, like, it's okay to make a mistake. If you made a mistake, but you had solid logic and reasoning for it, yeah, okay, maybe I would have done something different. Okay, maybe, you really looked at it correctly, but I, maybe would have done this differently, or maybe just this one little part that you missed. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is, don't come to me and say, I don't know what to do. Well, you clearly know something. Right? What have you looked at? What have you reviewed? Don't just make a decision because you didn't pay attention. There's a very, it's a very big difference. Again, empowerment and accountability, right? Like, I'm holding you accountable for your part and to review what the parts where you need, but I'm also going to empower you to help you make that decision. Yeah, so there you go again.
I mean, I definitely would rather have someone come to me and say, "Here's what I'm thinking. Here's my approach. Here's how I want to do it." And even if they're not going down the right track, at least they came to me prepared. At least they came to me with a game plan. And I'm like, yeah, I love where your head's at. Maybe let's tweak a few things here. I mean, so that's at least showing that they're thinking ahead. They're trying to do a game plan. But also to your point is, you know, we learn more in failure than we do in success. And so yeah, if someone's going out there and trying something and it didn't quite work, that's still a teachable moment. We can still learn from it. And if someone's open to learning, and they're open to saying, okay, how can I improve myself after I did this, those are the kind of people that I want to work with in the future. Those are the
Yeah.
people that I feel like, okay, even though you failed, you still want to improve yourself. So those are the best people to work with. On the flip side, and I think you've talked about this, how many times have you ran into someone who said, well, I tried it once, it didn't work, and I don't know what to do now, right? I mean,
Yeah, you do, right? You definitely do, and it's like, okay, well, did you learn to ride a bike? One shot. Um, and it's like, just sometimes simple, like, it's okay, like it's okay to mess up, and um, we learn, like you said, we learn way more from our failures than our successes, right? Like, we have to think about it. If you run into a roadblock, okay, is it, if I really need to get somewhere and I hit a detour, right? The street's closed. Oh, well, if I really need to get there and I really believe it's the right place that I need to be going, then go around the corner. If you go around the corner, that's also closed. Go the other way. Turn around. Maybe you have to turn around and go back a mile to go to the detour. But that's okay, because you believe this is the right thing and you really need to get to this destination, then you make it work. And you learn so much more from that than you do from just, oh, straight and easy.
yeah, the path least taken can sometimes be the path that you learn the most from. So I want to change gears a little here, and it's because you said something about returns that kind of sparked a question in my mind. In the past, when we would ask for a return, we'd say, hey, send me a photo so I can see the item or something like that. Someone would send a photo, it's pretty hard to fake that back in the day. I mean, unless they were
Right.
really good at Photoshop.
Yeah.
These days, though, with how easy it is to do image generation and to basically tweet things, how has that made your job harder, your team's harder now that people can basically do a deep fake on a product to try to get a return when that return is not warranted? So that's it's a bit of a curveball there, but I'm very curious about that actually.
Yeah, so it's actually, yeah, a very interesting point and definitely something that's probably going to become even more and more important to think about and more pressing. I would say that for us, because we're working with enterprise and B2B clients, it's really much more important for us that we know and understand our customers and we have that relationship with them where there's a layer of trust both ways, right? Like if I've worked with a customer for 10 years, I'm much more inclined to just, take their word for it and trust that they're telling me the truth than if somebody just walked in my door, day one. So I think it's going to be even more important that we understand our customers and know who we're speaking to. Um, so because you have that relational trust, and I think that's yeah, just going to become even more important.
Has your team encountered anything like that yet where you look at something and you're like, that seems a little funky right there. No, I don't think that's quite right. I mean,
I don't think we've had that specific one where like it's an AI generated image, but it's actually you said it, and I'm like, oh, we should probably think about that. But I don't think not in that specifically. And we've definitely seen things that were like something doesn't make sense with that picture, or the story just doesn't make sense. And not that somebody is necessarily lying, but just because we have the experience and the knowledge. So I think let me help you. I think you're missing a piece of this, or I think there's something that's let me help you understand or explain what this is supposed to look like and what if you say you're supposed to receive 50 boxes on 2 pallets. Okay, well, how many pallets did you receive? You're showing me a picture of one pallet. I'm like, all right, there's no way that this number of boxes only came on one pallet. So there's definitely elements where things just don't add up, and you have to know, like you have to trust yourself and your experience, and trust your gut that if something doesn't feel right, there's probably something that somebody is missing. But I don't think we've had that scenario yet of like an AI generated fake.
the, the, unfortunately, I don't think it's a matter of if, but when.
Yeah, I
In
agree.
but I mean, it's right. I mean, like I said, it all goes back to trust. Trust that your customer is doing the right thing. Trust that they have your best interest in mind, and that they are really going to be straightforward with you. Um, One thing that I remember when I was working support tickets and things like that was that, well, this was a long time ago. I had a guy that worked with me, and anytime a tough call would come in, because we had a screen up and it would show you what calls were coming in, he either knew the product or he'd automatically put himself out of the queue, and then that call would get routed to someone else. And the first time or two, you're like, okay, maybe it's just coincidence. But then you start to see a pattern forming. What do you do when you start to find people on your team either at the frontline level or the manager level that keep trying to skirt responsibility, because that's very much on the accountability side where they want to look busy, they want to look like there's something, but anything that mildly challenging comes up, they try to sidestep it. How do you deal with situations like that?
Yeah, no, definitely, it's definitely something that you can encounter and experience where, you look at something, you're like, that's something odd, like if you have a team and let's say one person's taken 15 calls and one person's taken 5 calls, and it's like just doesn't add up. Like the math doesn't math there. Um, and yeah, you can have that, right? Where someone changes their status and they put themselves out and then back in, and it's like, getting away with less calls, and they may look busy doing other work, but even if you're doing other work, it's just not fair. It's not fair to your team. So I would say, first is you need good metrics and reporting and data to be able to realize that there's an issue. That's some of it about being that, management by walking around type philosophy of. There's just some element of you got to just be aware of what's happening on your team and really know what's going on. So whether that's looking at dashboards, looking at data, and not to say that you have to do that every second of every day, right? But some, there's always that you want that trust level with your team, but also verify that that's really what you think is going on. Um, and when you encounter such type of scenarios, it's really just about being open and clear and honest with people, being like, look, this is what the data shows. Help me understand what's happening here, right? Like, am I missing something? Um, Usually not. You're like, I don't know. That's so odd. And you're like, okay, well, generally, when we see something like this, it's because, I can see, a status was changed. I can see, you know, you were no longer the next one available. When we see this on a day, okay, something may have happened that day. When I see this over a period of a week, 2 weeks, or over a period of time, to me that demonstrates a pattern of in a way dishonesty and lack of accountability and lack of accountability to your team. It's just not okay. Well, this needs to stop. I expect you to be available when you're supposed to be available. I expect you to be doing the work that you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it. And by the way, I'm going to review it tomorrow and next week and make sure that it is what we believe it should be. Uh, and you actually do need to review it and make sure. But really, just laying out the data, being clear, making sure that these these are our expectations, and you know what the expectations are. Like, come on, like don't tell me that you thought this is okay. Everybody knows you need to be available when you're supposed to be available. And most of the time, people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, it won't happen again." And most times it doesn't. But it's those other times where it does happen again, and then you really need to make sure that, okay, look, we got to follow up. Like, come on, we talked about this. We made sure that we were both clear on the expectations that this was not okay. Um, and let's again make sure it doesn't happen again, and continuing that process, and hopefully it changes. Hopefully they get the message. But yeah, it's really again just open, clear, honesty, clarifying expectations, and then the accountability as the follow through and the supporting factor.
Absolutely. I remember I had an employee that was like this, and they were just staying at. It was more for because this company we didn't have phone support, but we had chat support, and you could
Mm.
clearly see when someone was ready. And I remember one employee was saying, "Oh, it's kind of hemming and hawing." He said, and I shared my screen. I'm like, "Let's look at this. This is the team average.
Yeah.
This is your average. Why is there a delta here?" And they're like, "Oh, it was one day." Well, let's stretch this out to a week. Oh, look at right there,
Oh,
So it's just like, and you kind of
yeah.
think they're like, they have that like kind of just like, eh,
I'm
they're like,
caught.
okay, I'm caught.
Yeah.
I'm caught. So it's just,
Yeah, I don't think
um,
employees realize how much data is visible in this type of role, and that we really can monitor and see pretty much anything. And like when you
yeah,
just lay it out in front of them, they're just like, "Oh."
yeah, okay. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah. Last point, and we'll just try to make this a quick one because we're coming up on time, is that, on one side you have those people who are not doing the job, but on the other side you have your top performers, and you also have to worry about those people because they might burn themselves out if they're burning the candle too bright. How do you get your top performers to basically take their fair share of the work, but then how do you get them to maybe devote some energy to something else so they continue to grow and not just be this person who's burning bright, but then eventually, just extinguish this piece they're just going too hard on one
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's definitely something you need to think about, right? In manage any management role, like sometimes we can spend 80% of our time and effort on the 20% of employees who are the poor performers. And those people that are doing well don't get that time and energy that they need. So it is really important to always think about everybody on your team, especially, you know, your top performers, your middle performers, and your low performers. But um, yeah, to your point, you don't want people to burn out, and you really need to, again, I would say just being engaged with them and making sure that they know that, look, I think you're doing an amazing job, but it's okay to like take a step back, take a little break. I don't want you to burn yourself out, right? Like I don't want you to give 120%. Just give me 100%. 100% is good. Um, and just making sure that they know that you're okay. This is what you're looking for, and that they know that their mental health and support is important to you, and you're not just looking for who person who can just do as much as possible, and also possibly finding some other ways of keeping them engaged, like we were saying before about working on a project, working on a problem. Maybe they can take some questions from someone else on the team, right? So they're able to take a break from the work, but also be engaged and helping others. So just finding ways to keep them motivated and engaged, but also making sure they know that their growth and their support is really important to you, and that you don't want them to be doing too much.
I think that's a great answer to close this up because, I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with what I say when I try to close out every episode is that support just isn't a job, it's a mindset. And so if we take that mindset of support and we stretch it out to, things outside the job, then we can try to look at things from so many different angles. And like I said right there, it is taking a top performer and giving them tasks that they didn't think they might like, but then they love it, and then maybe that's their next opportunity, right?
Yeah,
Managers, we always have to be looking out not for what our people are doing right now, but what they could be doing later.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
so it was an absolute pleasure having you on today. I can't
Thank
thank you
you.
enough for taking out time of your day, and I
Yeah,
really enjoyed our conversation.
thank you so much. Me too.
All right, have a good one. Bye.